Scotty West, creator of the Absolutely Understand Guitar Video Home Study Program. Check us out on the web at www.absolutelyunderstandguitar.com. I'm here today to talk to you about improvisation. I know a lot of you are interested in soloing. You like styles like blues and rock and jazz where there's an improvisational aspect to the music. You get to make up the melodies right on the spot. And what could be more fun than that? That's some of the most fun you can have in music. Everybody wants to be able to solo. I think a lot of times people don't really have the whole picture of what that's really about. There's a lot of different approaches you can take to soloing. There's a lot of what I call lick barfing, where people actually just kind of reproduce riffs that they've heard other places. I mean, how many times have you heard something like this? You know, and people just tend to recycle these riffs all the time. But there's a deeper level of soloing where you really get to make up the music yourself. And I think that's the most fun place to be. And I want to tell you a little bit about that. That requires a little deeper knowledge of music, and above all, the most important aspect in soloing, as really in all aspects of music, is what's called ear training. Now, many of you have heard about ear training. You have an idea what it's about, but what is it really? Well, ear training is a process that you go through where you learn to memorize the various patterns, the notes, the scales, and everything in music so that you can recognize them when you hear them, either in the music around you, which is really how you figure out songs by ear, or maybe more significantly when you begin to hear them inside of your own musical imagination. And all the greatest soloists are actually hearing the melodies inside their head and then simply figuring out where to put their fingers in order to reproduce that inside of their head. And that really is all about ear training. And ear training, any good ear training program involves an element of singing. You use singing to help you memorize the different patterns. And an interesting thing to realize is that whenever I'm soloing, basically what I'm doing is I'm just singing inside my head. And then I'm trying to put my fingers where I need to in order to reproduce that stuff that I hear. And so a lot of times people don't know where these solos actually come from. But actually I'll show you right now. You heard me soloing a little bit in the beginning. You might think that's because I know my theory and I know my finger patterns and all that. But it isn't really. You want to know where that solo really comes from? Here, I'll show you. It comes from here. Just singing inside my head, and I know my fretboard well enough to know where to put my fingers in order to actually reproduce those notes. So then I'm going like, and if I get up too high, I'll just sing in a lower octave. I'll sing with my voice in a lower octave. But see, I know what every note is going to sound like before I play it. And those of you out there, you're going, oh my God, I can't do that. And kind of the answer, that's the answer, like, why can't you solo better than you can? That's part of the reason. And I'll get private students in here and they want to learn how to improvise, and they go, I can't solo the way I want. And I go, sing me a solo. And they go, what, are you crazy? I can't do that. And I go, well, no wonder you can't play one. And the singing isn't really the thing. The singing might just be the proof that you're really hearing the stuff inside your head. And that's where ear training is so crucial. Now, you have to have a reasonable knowledge of music theory in order to be able to do this level of ear training. You've got to know about your intervals. You've got to understand that scales are actually, and chords for that matter, are actually made up of sequences of intervals. You have to know what those intervals sound like. And a lot of it is practice. In our next post, we're going to be showing you how to do some basic ear training yourself. But I just wanted to point out to you that that's really where soloing comes from. It comes from ear training. And of course, you've got to know your finger patterns, no doubt about that. But and yes, you've got to know your music theory in order to be able to do some ear training. But it really is the ear training that is everything. And then you can just put the whole thing together.